It is my pleasure today to welcome Ruth Bowling here. As Denny said, you all are in for a treat. Ruth Bowling has a BA in Business Administration, and she's currently pursuing a Master's of Healthcare Administration at Advent Health University. A former insurance agent with Brown & Brown, Ruth has been privileged since 2013 to represent Advent Health Foundation, formerly Florida Hospital, as a development officer. Advent Health partners with Rotary clubs to provide hope and healing to children around the world. Ruth is an honorary member of 4 Rotary clubs in District 6980, including this one, and she's been made a multiple Paul Harris Fellow. Ruth is married. She has 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. She's made over 100 presentations to Rotary clubs in Florida, and she never tires of reminding Rotarians how they are changing the world one child at a time. So welcome, Ruth.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today about Rotary's partnership with Advent Health. We started doing medical missions back in the 90s, and things were going great, but then when we tried to make it sustainable, it wasn't working so well. Thankfully, someone who was on our board was a member of the local Rotary Club, and he said, hey, you should partner with Rotary. He was so right. Rotary has done for Advent Health what Advent Health with our 92,000 employees couldn't do for itself. And that's to have a long-term, sustainable, measurable medical program that is having a lasting impact on children and families around the world. So we started partnering in about 1999 with Cleft Lip and Cleft Palate in Mexico, and things were going great. Rotary expanded their partnerships in 2013 to include a global grant model. And so I started going to district conferences and Rotary conventions and meeting all different people. So a couple of years ago in Houston, I was minding my business at my table, representing our 2 different mission programs, global missions and sharing smiles. And someone came up to me and saw my flag, because we always put out the flags of the countries where we go. And he said, Nepal, I'm from Nepal. What are you doing in Nepal? And I said, well, we have a hospital that we've been operating outside of Kathmandu called Shir Memorial Hospital since the 1960s. But the patient load has expanded so much, and they do not have a CT scanner. So they have to stabilize patients that come in from the highway accidents. The highway's now very close. And so we have to stabilize them before we can transport them onto a hospital in Kathmandu. He said, well, wait a minute, we want to help. This is our area of focus. Let's do this. I'm like, are you sure? Because Nepal is pretty far away and whatever. So yes, we want to do this. So I got a hold of, do you know Sandra Hempstead? Sandra is our foundation zone coordinator. She was district governor the same year as Governor Ron. So she said to me, I'm planning to go to Nepal in October because it's my sister's 60th birthday. Let's see if we can do this. So let's see, are we going to start with the PowerPoint first, or are we going to start with the video first? You can't get to the video. All right, let's start with the PowerPoint, and I'll see if I can do the video at the end. I'll just have to plug mine in. So, oh, does it work with a remote? I'm a wife. I never really get to touch a remote. So we'll just go with next slide. Oh, I might not give this back. This is cool. Okay, so partners in service in Nepal. So this actually was put together by Sandra Hempstead, who was our zone coordinator. And this is where Sandra stayed when she went to Nepal. It's not actually a hotel. It's more like a lodging, but this was right outside her, where she stayed. That is not Mount Everest. That's actually Fishtail, but she stayed in the villages there. Where am I pointing this? There or here? Doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. So in the beginning, there was Rotary, as we know. So here I am in Houston. You might recognize these young people here at my booth. And again, I was representing all the partnerships that Rotary has with Advent Health. And this is where I met this gentleman from Nepal. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So many of you may recognize Sandra. Hempstead. So she went to the Nepal and stayed in the rural villages. This was for her sister's 60th birthday. So the two sisters went together, and there's a festival called Diwali that was happening at the same time. And it is a festival of siblings. So these are two other sisters who they met when they were in Nepal. And you can see this was also celebrating women. So these, if you look at all the Sherpas going up the mountain, that was an all-female Sherpa group. And you can see some of those Sherpas, they have children and they've got the child strapped to them, and then they've got a bag on their back. And that's what they do, you know, for work. And so you can see a small picture of them kind of traveling up the hills. And so she was able to see what's really needed there in Nepal. Great. So if you see this house, this is a wealthy person's home. How do you know it's a wealthy person's home? Well, if you look at the main room there are dishes, not just dishes, but metal dishes. Absolutely signifies a wealthy person's home. And that main room, they sleep in that room, they cook in that room, they eat in that room for warmth. So they have a wood burning stove there, and that's what keeps them warm. If you look at the home, the outside of the home, you see this tan looking thing that's kind of stuck to the outside. That is a beehive. They keep bees for it to eat the honey and also to sell the honey. So that's one way that they are able to make a living. And then the picture of the top is Sandra's group heading over to these little villages. Again, this is a wealthy person's home in Nepal. So here's the beneficiary, Shir Memorial Adventist Hospital. And I think if you saw in your bulletin, you can see that it's an almost 150 bed hospital that is a couple hours drive from Kathmandu. This is the entire complex here, and this is where we'll be working. So this is the president, the shorter gentleman of Shir Memorial Hospital. He's a member of Rotary, as are a number of members of his board. He's actually from the Philippines. He was the club president in the Philippines, but he's been working here in Nepal. This is the mission of Shir Memorial Adventist Hospital, to provide compassionate, patient-centered care to international standards for all patients, regardless of their ability to pay. They're a staple in the community. And what makes them so valuable is they do care for patients regardless of their ability to pay. So they're a referral hospital from many hospitals in the area that don't take care of patients unless they can pay. So it's really important. These are the hospital services that they offer. Again, the government of Nepal is trying to bring the level of service up. So for example, when we do our CT scanner, Nepal has anti-dumping laws where they will not allow you to bring in used medical equipment to the country, because they had a problem for a number of years where hospitals and aid organizations were just offloading their junk, and it didn't work. It wasn't sustainable. They couldn't get the parts or equipment. So they are going to be increasing their services. During the pandemic, they did a lot of work out in the community and with patients coming in. So this is where they were given an award while Sandra was there for what they had done during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you can imagine, when you're way up in the mountains, the big issue is oxygen, right? And what was the big issue with COVID-19? People couldn't breathe. Oxygen. How important is oxygen? I mean, hold your breath and think about it, right? Pretty important. Health camps. So the hospital goes out into the highways and hedges, into the small villages where people are, and they provide health camps free of charge. Again, there's not a lot of healthcare that's available there, particularly in the rural villages. This is what the grant is for, your district designated funds that we thank you for. CT scanner. So it's a big project. The cost is about $350,000, and it's 156 slice. The government mandates the size, the power of the equipment based on the number of beds. So this was 156. This is what we have to put in a hospital of that size. So let me tell you about Ryan. Ryan was 22 years old. He came to the hospital in 2021. He's a day laborer. Again, he was in the ICU, septicemia, epilepsy, schizophrenia. So the difficulty with the patients there is he was brought after his family walked for days and brought him to this hospital on one of those little like stretchers. It's not a stretcher. It looks more like a litter, you know, kind of poles with something stretched across it. And it took them days to just stabilize him so that he was safe to transport to another hospital. What happens in Nepal is people usually, if they don't have the money to get treatment at the hospital and they happen to have a house, they'll sell their house or they'll sell their land. Once they sell that house and their land to pay for their hospital bill, they have no way of supporting themselves. And he was a day laborer, so he didn't have a house or a land to sell anyway, but the hospital cared for him, free of charge. And then they transferred him to a Nepal hospital. He was there for 9 days. And again, it's very difficult. So that's why it's very important to have Sheer Memorial Hospital, because there are a lot of patients who don't have anything to trade, or to sell to get that care. So here are the Rotary clubs we're working with. The Rotary Club of Kopendal, which is the host club. I don't even know how you say it, Narayangath. I was hoping Sandra could zoom in, but she's actually at the zone meeting. So Sandra Hempstead was not able to join us today. Rotary Club of Kavre Benepa. So the Kavre Benepa Club is actually the closest club, but because that's where the hospital president and a few other members of his board, that's their club, they thought for conflict of interest purposes, it was better that they not be the host club. So the host club is Kopendal, which is great because it's a very big club. It's the oldest club in Nepal, and also the past district governor, immediate past governor, is in that club. So they have a lot of experience. The Bonita Beach Sunset is the international club, and that's here in Florida, District 6960. So the CT scanner will cost, again, $350,000. It's okay, 160, 156, 160 slice. And that 350,000 includes the CT scanner, the maintenance, warranty, and the training, the installation, and the building preparation. So when we did this slide, we still needed 147,000, but the last few weeks have just been amazing. And it looks like we have enough to get it going and to get it started. So I want to thank you. And I want to show you a short video if we can. Is there anything else that needs to happen from here? All right, I will zoom in from here because it's a short video that was made by the president of Sheer Memorial Hospital, and he wanted to send a message. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. All right, now, how do I get it back to the full screen? Here? Right there. View options. I mean, I don't think I can do it side by side. So now I have, okay, so now I can share my screen. Yes. Share sound here.
Where's the video?
There, then I got share sound.
Up from us the video.
Okay.
And then play.
Share.
Yep.
Don't have to share. Turn it up. You see it? Okay.
Hi, my name is Rick Dodds, CEO of Littleton Adventist Hospital. Today, we're here to ask for $50,000 for a new CT scanner for Shir Memorial Hospital in Nepal. Nepal has approximately 30 million people, of which the majority are Hindu. Other than Adra, Shir Memorial Hospital is the only Adventist institution in Nepal. Shir Memorial Hospital has approximately 150 beds. In my visit last fall, it was clear that they are doing amazing work with very few resources. Regarding imaging, the hospital currently has X-ray and ultrasound, but doesn't have CT and MRI. As you can imagine, in the mountains of Nepal, it's important that CT services are there for emergent cases. As you know, CTs aren't cheap. We're working hand in hand with other Advent Health foundations in Colorado and Florida, in addition to Loma Linda and other Rotary International organizations. I am very impressed with the leadership team at Shir Memorial Hospital. That team, led by Dr. Hector, who originates from the Philippines, does an incredible job. When I first met Dr. Hector, he reminded me our mountains are at around 4,000 meters tall. His are a bit taller at 8,000 meters tall and above. Let me introduce you to Dr. Hector Galleres, and he can tell you more about the CT project.
I am Dr. Hector Galleres Jr., the Chief Executive Officer of Shir Memorial Adventist Hospital, Banepa, Nepal. When we started our CT scan project, we did an official needs assessment, and I had a conversation with our Chief Medical Officer, and this is what she said. Currently, we treat around 60 patients daily in the emergency department and 400 to 500 patients in the outpatient department and clinics. Of this, in the ER, 4 to 5 cases and around 5 to 10 cases from the OPD would need CT scan. Since we don't have a CT scan, we refer them to other centers. Shir Memorial Adventist Hospital has been in this ministry for the past 63 years. And we have been true to our mission to provide compassionate, patient-centered care to international standards regardless of their ability to pay. But the international standards part, that's the one that we have to address now with a CT scan machine. We serve the 150,000 population of Banepa municipality, and not only that, we also serve the greater districts east of Kathmandu city, which comprises of around 1.5 million people. If we have a CT scan, we don't have to refer them to other centers, but we can treat them, and we can assist them, and we can help them in their healing and in their recovery. And so you may ask me, what would a CT scan project do to Shir? Definitely, number one, it will upgrade the service capability of the hospital. But the more important thing is, it will have an impact. The impact of saving a life, and a life saved is priceless. Very, very dhanyavad. Namaste, everyone.
Thank you very much. Does anybody, oh, what?
1 second.
Questions? Anyone? Sorry, Petey, you don't have the mic. So if they refer the other patients to get a CT elsewhere, are they charged, are the patients charged by those other hospitals for CT scans? Okay, and then I'm ignorant of medical things. So what's the difference between a CT scanner and a MRI?
I think it takes slices. I think an MRI is more outside. The CT scanner takes 160 slices of each particular one, so they can see exactly where in the brain or wherever it is the injury is, and they can address it more carefully. Now, I'm not a doctor. Ruth, maybe Dr. Ruth? Never mind. That would not be we would have a different conversation. Absolutely. Maybe not fair to all concerned. Governor Denny.
You know, my cousin and her husband lived in Kathmandu for 15 years. She ran the Fulbright scholarship program for the United States, and he worked with the World Bank trying to train women. I know that in the countryside in Nepal, one of the biggest problems, and you alluded to that, you showed all the women Sherpas. These women bear heavy burdens. A lot of times it's right after birth too.
Mm-hmm.
Vaginal prolapse is a tremendous problem in the countryside. Is it that bad in Kathmandu also?
Yes, and that's going to be addressed in our next global grant that is going to be led by the Rotary Club of Salt Lake City. So stay tuned, because this was what they thought was the biggest need, you know, at the time. But yeah, I think it's right around the corner. So we'll be back.
The
Yes.
Adventist Church sends doctors and healthcare professionals overseas. Do you send doctors to assist at the hospital in Nepal?
We have not sent doctors to assist in Nepal. We have people who sit on their board, and we've provided them with strategic planning. I should say, by the way, that of this 350,000, Rotary is allowing Advent Health to contribute 100,000 of it, because we are not sending the doctors. When you are a cooperating organization with a grant, you can't help fund it. That's why we don't help fund it for Sharing Smiles. We're just a funding partner. So we've put in 100,000 of that money. And in fact, some Rotary clubs have allowed us to, and Rotary Foundation is fine with that, send the money through them, and then they match it with DDF on top of that. So it's pretty cool what Rotary does. Anyone else with a question? And I'll be happy to come back and share pictures. Yes, Sandra.
And I may have missed it, but we actually did that this year with our DDF. Is that
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. This is where your money went. So I'll be happy to show you how we spent your money when the project is complete. So, and just think of all the lives, you know, that you're going to save. It's going to be pretty exciting. So thank you. Anyone else have a question or a comment? Yes, Governor.
Wait a minute. Then. How many different countries is the Smiles program working in? How many different countries is the Smiles program working in right now? This is absolutely amazing if you don't know.
5. And we're going to be expanding to the Dominican Republic this year because of Rotary. And this is the point. I mean, I go to these Rotary meetings, and everywhere we go to do good in the world, y'all are already there. And so every time I go to a Rotary meeting with my table and my booth, I have Rotarians that come up to me and say, hey, what are you doing in this country and that country? And inevitably, every time they say, well, we want to help. They did that in Haiti. They did that in Ethiopia. They did that in Nepal. And I have a feeling when we expand to Zimbabwe next year that's going to be happening. So stay tuned. I can't absolutely promise I'm going to ask you next year for Nepal. It might be Zimbabwe. So just stay tuned. But everywhere we go, the reason the families come is they know Rotary. They know that follow that golden wheel. And if you follow that golden wheel, something good is coming to your community. And so even if they've never heard of Advent Health, they've heard of you. And I mean, if you think about it, Rotarians are known throughout the world as being advocates for the underserved and being advocates for their community. I saw it here. I saw it in the food pantries that you do and all the work that you do in your community. The Rotarians in country are excited to be able to do good work and to have their money extended by the power of the US dollar and by the power of Rotary. So you guys are the best partners ever. Thank you.
You want to take just a second and talk about the bigger Smiles program, because we have new members and people on the internet.
You have members that haven't, okay,
We're
hold
actually
on.
a little ahead of time.
Well, since we're sharing screens, am I sharing my screen still? Oh, you shut me off. Don't shut me off. No. So the Sharing Smiles program, again, that was the first program that we did in country. And we started doing that in Mexico because the Rotarian from the Winter Park Club Tom Donnelly had run USAID in Mexico. So he knew a lot of people and they told him that that's what they needed because they have children born with a cleft lip or palate. Sure, they need plastic surgery, but it's not like, hey, my ears are sticking out a little too far. It's a case of I'm an infant trying to nourish myself by sucking on a nipple and now there's a hole in the roof of my mouth. So I have to show you what Rotary did to heal this. It was amazing. Hang on a second.
Arrival on the first day is always kind of exciting because the local Rotary clubs have kind of prepared the community. We arrive at a hospital and there may be 50 or 60 kids plus 50 or 60 moms and dads and grandmoms and siblings waiting for us anxiously because they know this is an opportunity to change the life of their kids.
I am Wilbur Davis. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. Sharing Smiles has a cleft and lip and palate team, a pediatric dental team, and physical therapy team. It's helping one child at a time.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Lawton-Kuhn. I am a board member with Sharing Smiles. Check-in day was incredible, just to meet all the families and to see the need that was there. Then on surgery day, just to see the partnership that happens between the doctors here in Mexico and our doctors in the US, just the collaboration in surgery, out of surgery, just the teaching and the collaboration was probably my favorite part.
There's a thing in Rotary called your Rotary moment. And at one time, usually in a person's Rotary life or career, there's something that really hits them to say that what we're doing is really worthwhile. And it happened on my first cleft lip and cleft palate visit when I saw those kids. And a day later, I saw the work that the surgeons had done and knew in my heart that their life was immediately changed.
So we are Sharing Smiles. I know that's where you went last year, by the way. So every time you've given to a project, you're saving lives and changing lives. And we just can't thank you enough because you're really heroes. You know, we can only stay for 1 week. That's all we can do. But Rotary has meetings every single week and make sure that the children get their follow-up care. Make sure that the project is sustainable. So you all are not just the generosity champions, but you're also the champions of sustainability. And thank you again. Y'all are the best. Thanks.